Can I also take this opportunity to congratulate all MSPs elected last week and to the SNP on their historic third term in government in Scotland. And on a bad night for my own party, Mr Speaker, I do have to say that in my own seat of Edinburgh Southern it was a net gain from the SNP on that evening. Can I also congratulate the Secretary of State? Can I also congratulate the Secretary of State on his son Oliver being elected to the Scottish Parliament? There are now not only 2 elected members, but they also both have fetching beards, Mr Speaker, with the word fetching being used loosely in this particular context. Mr Speaker, the evidence is clear that the UK and Scotland are stronger in the EU. In the Scottish context, for example, as the Secretary of State has already said, 42% of exports, 250,000 jobs, 10% of higher education spending and a whole host of social protection. So can the Secretary of State give this assurance to the Scottish people that all Conservative MSPs will be campaigning to stay in the European Union?
Mr Speaker, I thank the honourable gentleman for his congratulations and the congratulations to my son. I have to say the high point of the election for me was when somebody on the door said "You look a lot like your dad." But that aside, what I can assure him is that there will be a robust and proper debate in Scotland. Ruth Davidson, ahead of the beginning of this referendum process, made her position very clear on supporting Scotland remaining in the EU. But we can't hide the fact that there are people in Scotland who would like to leave the EU, and I think their view should be reflected. The Conservative Party isn't frightened in Scotland to hide the fact that there are different views. There are different views across Scotland.
What the Secretary of State hasn't told us is what Oliver's response was when the constituent said, "You look awfully like your dad." Perhaps he could say when he gets back to the dispatch box. Mr Speaker, everyone knows that this EU referendum is more about settling old scores in the Conservative Party than doing what is best for the UK and indeed Scotland. We also know that the Scottish National Party are desperate for any excuse to trigger another independence referendum. But the truth is, and we all know, that the UK is better in the EU and Scotland is better off in the UK. So isn't it the case that this Secretary of State and his government have taken a huge gamble with the UK's future and a huge gamble with Scotland's future too?